With the Subway Series starting tomorrow night in New York, Mike Stevens has a story tonight that's right on time from Northumberland County.
You could drive through Shamokin and not even know that this is the birthplace of a Hall of Famer. If you stopped and read this monument, though, you would then know that Stanley Kovaleski has a place in the record books. Mark Gilger is a reporter for the news item in Shamokin. He's been researching Stanley's record for a lengthy story about the pitcher in the Saturday paper. He'll tell you about Stanley Kovaleski at the drop of a hat.
That primarily was his most remarkable achievement, that he won the 3 games in the World Series in 1920. Plus, he had 5 seasons in which he won 20 or more games.
80 years ago, Stanley Kovaleski was having quite a series against Brooklyn. Not bad, Mark says, for a coal miner.
He used to throw pulp at tin cans to perfect his control. And that was the most important part of his game.
Stanley spent 14 years in the majors. Retired, he was living quietly until 1969, when the spotlight turned on him again. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame along with Campanella and Musial. Pretty good company for a guy who practiced by throwing coal. Mike Stevens, News Watch 16, on the Pennsylvania Road in Shamokin.
Wow, quite a tribute.
It's not often our Mike Stevens tells a story about disasters, but this time it may be different. It's an event that happened in Columbia County more than 50 years ago, and it's the place we'll visit, this time on the Pennsylvania Road.
We likely would never have found the grave of George von Siebold without the help of Tom Dempsey. It's in the Oddfellows Cemetery in the nearly deserted town of Centralia. The date of his death on the stone, June 17, 1948, that is important, but like this grave, it's almost forgotten, unless you're a local. Siebold died when a plane, much like this one, a DC-6, carrying 43 souls, crashed not far from Centralia, near the small community of Wilburton.
A couple parts of the engines were about the biggest pieces that were survived.
We were allowed to go onto the private property where the crash occurred. It is today, much like it was 55 years ago.
They actually came over the borough of Coltmont, and they were very low when they came over Coltmont.
200 feet up is the best estimate. The passengers began their flight in California the day before, traveling in the comfort these advertising photos showed, no doubt expecting to arrive in New York as scheduled.
He was coming up through the valley, and there was a large coal breaker standing there, and he was heading right for it.
The breaker stood up this hill, but the plane veered and missed it at the last moment, striking a power substation nearby and exploding. Remnants of what once stood here are all that's left. Over the years, bits and pieces of the plane's exterior have turned up. Ray Raleigh, a teenager then, says the rest of the plane is still nearby.
They took all the airplane parts and they laid them all over there, like they would do now, put them in a hangar. And after they identified them and logged them and everything, then they buried it.
Likely cause is a concentration of carbon dioxide leaking into the cockpit. CO2 from fire extinguishers pulled by the pilots for an apparent false alarm in the cargo hold. Mike Stevens, News Watch 16, on the Pennsylvania Road in Columbia County. I'd heard from a friend that the Roaring Creek Division of Consumers Pennsylvania Water Company in Northumberland County had some scenic property in its watershed. Dave Dyer, who is watershed activities consultant for the utility, said that was right. He said there was some history here as well.
This was also known as the ice dam, and all the ice from the area that was sold in the area was taken from here. They cut a channel down through, float the cakes of ice down in a little steam engine, bringing it up and putting it in here.
And later on, when the reservoir froze again, they'd play hockey. The dam was one goal. Way up there, that structure you can just barely see was the other. Water utilities aren't fond of trespassers for obvious reasons, but this one offers tours, so its customers can at least see part of the operation, perhaps the prettiest part. There are bubbling springs back here that reminded me of those small sand globes that you shake. The stream looks almost alive, I thought, and it is a pattern that changes constantly. You could sit and stare at it for hours. The watershed is 12 miles long with a history that goes back to the mid-1800s. Roaring Creek water has been around a long time.
This water is coming through and filling up number 1 reservoir where we're drawing about 2.5 million gallons of water a day.
The aerator shoots pressure-driven water up into the air, allowing it to splash down into the creek bed. Dave says it comes down cleaner than when it went up. It can be more than a bit refreshing here on hot summer days. The Roaring Creek Division controls some of the most serene property you could ever hope to find. If you're a customer, you can arrange a tour. It's a good one to take if you want to get away from it all. Mike Stevens, News Watch 16 on the Pennsylvania Road in Northumberland County.